Good evening, everyone. This is the first episode of a new sports talk show that I'm going to do. It's going to be called On the Glass, and I am going to be your host, Brandon Abels. Like I said, this is the first episode, so I just want to get a couple things out of the way to let you know who I am. This is going to be a sports talk show. We're going to cover a variety of topics, namely college football and basketball, the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, just about anything going on in sports. We're going to try to talk about it and cover it. Just so there's no confusion or anything like that, I'm going to tell you my favorite teams now, and we'll try to keep an objective view moving forward. But just so everybody knows, in the NFL, I am a diehard fan of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I will have my teal-colored glasses on most of the time when I talk about the Jaguars. I'm sorry, I can't help that. In the NCAA, I follow the University of Louisville Cardinals, but I also keep a close eye on the University of Kentucky Wildcats. When it comes to college, I will try to be objective as possible and not have an absolute homer attitude. In the NBA, I am a New York Knicks fan, but I also keep close tabs on the Lakers as well. And then finally, in Major League Baseball, I follow a couple different teams, mainly the Tampa Bay Rays, the Chicago Cubs, and the Boston Red Sox. I'm a casual baseball fan at best, but I do follow the Rays pretty close, especially in the last season or so, because they do have Brendan McKay now from the University of Louisville. So we are following them pretty close. So full disclosure, I will try to be objective as possible when it comes to all things sports, but when it comes to the Jaguars, I kind of got a homer attitude about them and wear teal-colored glasses. This is going to be a raw, uncut show. I don't have any fancy graphics. I'm not able to do highlights or anything like that. But we will talk about some certain topics and hot button issues in sports. And if you need to, you can look up highlights or whatever the case may be. Now, today is December the 30th. It is the first Monday without professional football in quite some time. Today is known as Black Friday for NFL coaches throughout the league, and we saw a couple casualties. One that was not very surprising was the firing of Freddie Kitchens up in Cleveland. That, to me, was a reach of a hire anyway when they made it, and it just didn't pan out too well for Cleveland. They had all the hype and all that kind of stuff in the offseason. They made some big off-season moves, acquiring Odell Beckham from the Giants. They got a great running back in Nick Chubb. They have all the talent in the world on paper. But ever since Cleveland came back into the league a few years back, it's been over 20 years now, but they have seemed to be a cursed franchise. They can't do anything right. It seems like the front office is always falling all over themselves to make the wrong moves. So Freddie Kitchens as a hire was a reach anyway. And then underachieving, going 6-10 with the talent that he had with Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, and all those guys. Really not surprising there. So what can you do? The coaching thing that I want to talk about mainly today is Ron Rivera is reportedly going to the Washington Redskins. He was fired mid-season by the Carolina Panthers after another underwhelming season in Carolina. And now the Redskins, after firing Jay Gruden not too far into the season, are looking at him as their new head coach. Ron Rivera, as the head coach of the Panthers, was 79-67-1 overall. That's including the postseason, with a .541 winning percentage. He did take the Carolina Panthers to 3 straight division titles, and he did also take them to the Super Bowl number 50. But as a general rule, Ron Rivera has not lit the world on fire. They've had some really good defenses in Carolina. And then, of course, you have Cam Newton, who was in his prime. in Carolina under Riviera, and they've kind of underachieved. Kind of feels like the Redskins are going to be reaching with this one. They don't have a lot of talent. I mean, Dwayne Haskins being their quarterback is not looking too good for them, I don't think. But the good news for the Redskins and Redskins fans is the simple fact that they're playing the NFC East. And the NFC East right now is a dumpster fire. The Giants fired their coach too. They're on a search for a head coach. The only thing they got going for them is Saquon Barkley. That seems to be the only bright spot in the City of Lights right now in New York. So they're bad. I said it last year or during the offseason this past season that the Philadelphia Eagles let the wrong quarterback go. They should have been quick on the trigger to trade Carson Wentz and keep Nick Foles in that system. Nick Foles has left Philadelphia once before and fallen on his face in St. Louis and Kansas City. Went back to Philadelphia. We all know that story. And he was the Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP. And then in the offseason signed with my Jaguars for an $88 million contract, $50 million of it guaranteed. The Eagles limp their way into the postseason. They'll probably be a one-and-done type thing. It's kind of sad that the Seahawks have to travel to Philadelphia, being a far superior team, to play in Philadelphia for a team that don't even really deserve to be in the playoffs. But somebody had to win that division, and it just so happened to be Philadelphia. And then Dallas just firing Jason Garrett, and we'll get to that in a second. That whole division is just an absolute dumpster fire. It's one of the worst divisions I've ever seen in professional football. So the good news, if they do hire Riviera, is that it could be a quick rebuild just to get competitive in the division, because if you're competitive in that division, you can go to the playoffs, and then once you get there, anything can happen. And Riviera was 3-4 in the postseason, and that's including his run to the Super Bowl. Look, I think the Washington Redskins are making a mistake. I think this is also a reach of a hire, but we'll see. The NFC East is down, so anything can happen. Like I just mentioned, the Dallas Cowboys also finally pulled the trigger on Jason Garrett today and got rid of him. Now the question in Big D is, who's going to be the coach that comes in and resurrects the Cowboys? Look, let's face it. The Dallas Cowboys have by far one of the biggest fan bases in this country. They are called America's teams for a reason. They often draw high ratings on Sundays when they play. You either tune in because you love them, or you tune in because you hate them and you want to see them get beat. Now, the problem facing Big D, in my opinion, is that some coach is going to have to come in there, and you're basically going to have to turn over all control to Jerry Jones. I will give you 5 seconds right now. Tell me another owner that you see interviewed on TV as much as you see Jerry Jones. The answer is none. The man is an absolute control freak. He runs that organization. He is the GM of that organization. I just don't know what to think about Jerry Jones. And he's wanting to go out and get a top-name coach. Here's some candidates that I found listed online. Bill Cowher, Jack Del Rio. I don't think either one of those guys will be willing to come out of retirement. Bill Cowher got a great job in television. He is not going to be willing to come out of retirement to have Jerry Jones tell him how to run his football team. Jack Del Rio, he's a 500 coach at best over his career. He gave me some good years down in Jacksonville. We had some incredible defenses under Del Rio, but he's also an underachiever and coach. So I just don't see him wanting to come out of retirement and give complete control to Jerry Jones and just be the whipping boy for the media when the Dallas Cowboys underachieve every year like they do. Then we're going to start talking about some college people. Mike Leach from Washington State is a candidate apparently on the Dallas Cowboys list. Mike Leach, he's an offensive guy. He's done some great things in college. He's a little advanced in years, so I don't know if he'd be willing to leave the college ranks to come into the NFL and try his hand there. But it could be interesting. Mike Leach is always good for a soundbite or two, so we'll just have to wait and see how that one plays out. I don't anticipate him getting an interview or anything like that, but it will be something fun to watch. And then the two big ones that everybody's talking about out of the college ranks are Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma and then Urban Meyer. First, we'll talk about Urban Meyer. I foresee Urban Meyer taking another college job. I don't see him going to the NFL. But if he did, I could see him going someplace like Dallas. I think Jerry Jones will do anything in his power to try to get a guy like Urban there. I don't think Jerry Jones cares about the baggage that comes with Urban Meyer. All Jerry Jones wants to do is win and win now and win at all cost. So Urban could be an interesting choice there. If he does go to Dallas, it will be interesting to see what he does. The Cowboys, love him or hate him, are loaded with talent. I don't think Dak Prescott is the quarterback that everybody tries to make him out to be. Ezekiel Elliott, though, is the real deal. They got weapons on the outside and some great receivers. They always have one of the best offensive lines in football. And then we'll see if Witten sticks around for a couple more years and see what happens there. And then Lincoln Riley, I'm not sold on Lincoln Riley. He seems to be like a quarterback guru type guy right now, but he always seems to kind of choke. He got killed in the playoffs this year. LSU absolutely steamrolled them in the playoff. It was not a competitive game at all. So we'll see. Everybody's high on Lincoln Riley. I don't see it, but that could be another instance where Jerry Jones will throw the bank at him and try to lure him out of Oklahoma. If he does leave Oklahoma for the Dallas Cowboys, that will be interesting to see what Oklahoma does. There's not a lot of young up-and-coming coaches in the college ranks that I know of. They might have to – heck, if Lincoln Riley goes to Dallas from Oklahoma, maybe Urban will try Oklahoma. He seems like he's only a blue blood type guy now, so could be interesting to see if Lincoln goes to Dallas. And then one more name I see on this list is Dennis Allen. He is the Saints defensive coordinator. Don't know why you would go after him. The Saints, up until probably about week 4 of this season, have never had a defense, so how good of a coach can he possibly be? But we'll see. We'll keep an eye on the big Dallas coaching search, and as candidates become more and more clear, we'll talk about them more in the future. But I honestly would put my money on somebody not on this list getting the job, but only time will tell. Also today was the University of Louisville bowl game. They were in the Music City Bowl against Mississippi State Bulldogs. 2 years ago, we played Mississippi State in a bowl as well. That time it was the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl down in Jacksonville, Florida, which ended up being Lamar Jackson's final season. And Mississippi State beat Louisville that day, but that was not the case today. After getting down pretty early in the game, 14-0, Louisville battled all the way back and won this game 38-28, outscoring Mississippi State in the second half by a wide margin. The third quarter, I think it was 21-0. Louisville put their foot on the gas in the third quarter and didn't let up, and won this game by 10. Most interesting thing about this game is Mississippi State had a good running attack going into this game, which I did not think fared well for Louisville going into the game, because Louisville had been getting gashed all year long in the run game. Louisville could not stop a youth league football team when it came to running the football. We seen against Kentucky, Lynn Bowden, I think, actually just scored his last touchdown a couple days ago against Louisville. He had a tremendous amount of yards and a tremendous game against Louisville. And we had been getting absolutely gashed in the run game. So when I saw the matchup of Mississippi State, I knew they had a pretty good run game, pretty good offensive line. They did just sneak into the bowls with a Mississippi player just being a kid and doing dumb things and Everybody knows that story. Fake P got them into the bowl. But when we were announced as playing them, it kind of made me nervous because of the run game. But the Louisville defense showed up today after a first quarter where the quarterback was running, the second string quarterback was running all over Louisville. Louisville tightened it up and only gave up 148 yards rushing to Mississippi State when they had been giving up a lot more than that. So it was a good defensive effort from Brian Brown and his boys out there today. They came to play and they played well. Total yards in this game was 570 for Louisville to 366. Mikael Cunningham had an excellent game. He both running and throwing the football. The Louisville defense in the second half tightened up and locked down and played a phenomenal game. They had a bunch of sacks in there too, forced a couple of turnovers. It was a good game all around for the University of Louisville. I would not have predicted a 10-point win. I would not have predicted a 1-point win though. Louisville was an underdog going into this game, and I thought it would have been a safe bet to go with the Bulldogs in this game, but turns out I was wrong. And congratulations to the University of Louisville. It was one heck of a turnaround from last year, going 2-10 and getting blown out from every opponent that we lined up on the field against last year, to this year being 8-5 was an absolute incredible turnaround. And Coach Satterfield and his staff deserve nothing but credit and praise for that. Not many guys could have came into the job at the University of Louisville in the shape that it was in and done what he done. So kudos to you, Coach Satterfield. Congratulations on the win. And we'll see what the future holds for the University of Louisville. They got a pretty decent recruiting class coming in, got some good pieces, and Hawkins and Hall and Cunningham and all those guys coming back. So it could be a special season for the University of Louisville next year. We'll have to wait and see. Hopefully we don't need our freshman stud quarterback next year with Conley and Cunningham both returning. We'll have to wait and see what happens with Jawan Pass in the offseason. Could be interesting if he stays, but I foresee him going into the transfer portal. And we'll just look forward to the University of Louisville football season next year. It's been a couple years since we could actually do that. Going into this season, I thought they were a 5-win football team. They proved me wrong on that. And I'll take a 7-5 regular season and an 8-5 season all day long over what we've seen last year. So congratulations, Coach Satterfield. Also, tomorrow's New Year's Eve, which also means it is time for the Belk Bowl. And the University of Kentucky will be playing the Virginia Tech Hokies in the Belk Bowl at noon tomorrow. Kentucky comes into this game as a 2.5-point underdog against Virginia Tech. It's another ACC versus SEC matchup. We'll have to wait and see how this goes. Virginia Tech only gives opponents 123 yards on the ground. So they have a pretty stout run defense. You know, and I know that all Kentucky can do is run the football. They don't have much of a quarterback in Lyndon Bolden that can throw the ball down the field or anything like that and just air it out. But he can run. He's a very elusive runner. He can hit holes. He can hit gaps. He can shift on a dime and be gone in an instant. So we'll have to see what Bolden does. For a team that's only given up 123 yards on the ground, they do give up quite a bit of yards through the air. So we'll just have to wait and see how this one plays out. Virginia Tech, like I said, only gives up 123 rush yards a game. They average 31 a game, and UK averages 26 points a game. So going by that, it's a 5-point advantage for Virginia Tech. But the interesting statistic here is Virginia Tech does give up 24 points a game and UK only 18. UK played a pretty decent schedule, playing Florida and Georgia in the SEC, playing Louisville in the ACC in their non-con. The rest of their non-con was an absolute joke. Cupcake City. But giving up 18 points a game, Kentucky has a defense. Kentucky has a good defense. And Virginia Tech giving up 24. Interesting here. My prediction for the game tomorrow is Kentucky imposes their will on everybody that they have stepped on the field with this year. Georgia only beat them by 3 touchdowns. Granted, it was a torrential downpour, but they played with Georgia. I believe that was the first or second game with Bowden as the starting quarterback for the University of Kentucky. So anything can happen on any given day in college football. I do think Kentucky will win this football game. Virginia Tech got off to a kind of slow start, and they kicked it into high gear later in the season. But I think the Cats are going to be too much on defense. I predict the Cats win by 3, something like 17-14, 20-17, something in that area. We will be traveling to Tennessee tomorrow to go celebrate New Year's Eve in Gatlinburg. So we will have to listen to this one on the radio. But I do predict that the Cats will win tomorrow 20-17. You will hear it here first if I am wrong. Kentucky had a good recruiting class too, so things are looking good for both programs in the Bluegrass as far as it goes for football. This rivalry in football now could be getting interesting for the next few years. Stoops has it going down in Kentucky. We'll see what Satterfield, the jury's kind of still out on him, although he did have an overachieving season. So we'll just have to see how this football rivalry plays out. Basketball-wise, we got to kick it in high gear. We got to start competing with Kentucky better. This 78-70 and getting beat the last 5 years is not going to cut it for U of L fans. This is not a fun rivalry anymore. They keep handing it to us. But that's another episode. And last thing I'll talk about is tomorrow on New Year's Eve, Doug Marrone will be meeting with Shad Khan, the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, as well as Dave Caldwell to decide their futures. Look, when it comes to the Jaguars, midway through the year, I was all on board with firing Doug Marrone. But turns out Tom Coughlin was an absolute nightmare on the franchise. Now that he's gone, he could have had an absolute stranglehold on Marrone and telling him what he could and couldn't do. And heck, he could have even been making game plans and stuff for Marrone. Who knows? So, that being said, the way that the Jaguars ended the season against the Indianapolis Colts, the way that those players played for Marrone and what could have been his last game should tell Shad something. Look, I'm not going to pull any punches here. I love the Jaguars. Straight to the point, love the Jaguars. However, we have been an embarrassment of a franchise for the last 15 years. One more year to see how Doug Marrone does. Give him 4 games. Give him a quarter of a season. Give him 4 games. See how he does. If we don't see any improvement, if we don't see better focus, we got to cut the penalties out and stuff like that. We got to be a more disciplined football team. Then maybe move on mid-season. One thing that's definitely got to change is we do have to fire the defensive coordinator. Todd Wash has got to go. There's just no two ways around it. Todd Wash has got to go. We were a upper echelon defense just 2 years ago, and the bottom has completely fallen off of the defense, and that's just unforgivable and unnecessary and inexcusable. So definitely move on from Todd Wash. I'm in favor right now of giving Marrone another season. We'll see tomorrow what the verdict is, and if I have Wi-Fi tomorrow, we might come on here and do a reaction video, and we might do some reaction video to the Kentucky game, and also other bowl games that are going on tomorrow. Coming up this week, we will also do a feature on the playoff games in the NFL coming up. I'll start doing some research, crunching some numbers, things like that. That's things that you can expect here on the Glass, the new sports talk show. And we'll just wait and see how this goes. This was my first episode, so I know I've been stuttering and stammering a whole lot, and I do apologize for that. I get really excited and passionate when I talk about sports. So, guys, last thing I'll leave you with every week, Every episode is, if you're ever in the market for new sunglasses, be sure to check out my guys at ShadyRays.com. They have excellent, affordable shades at a just unbelievable price for the quality that you get. Check them out at ShadyRays.com and tell them that the Big Ticket sent you. But for now, that's it. I do have an email address set up. It's ontheglass34@gmail.com if you want to send me an email and give me some feedback. Like and subscribe to this channel. Share this video. Get the word out that we're going to do this. It's something that I'm actually looking forward to. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I love talking about sports anyway. So interaction with you, comments on these videos, send me some email ontheglass34@gmail.com. Tell me some things that you want me to talk about. Give me feedback of how I've done tonight. And we'll just see how this thing goes. ontheglass34@gmail.com. Like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. And until next time, we'll see you on the glass.